Hello, everybody, and welcome to Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. I'm your host, BMR. I don't have a co-host tonight. You all know about Texas' work schedule. The lovely Jessica normally joins me. She's taking care of her kids, school issues. But hey, you know what? That is okay with me. That's okay with me. We had a great show. We have What the Paranormal coming on. A mother and daughter investigative team. They'll be joining us shortly on the show. If this is your first time here, please subscribe, give a thumbs up, hit the alert bell, and share with friends. You can find us on YouTube at Texas Front Porch and Bigfoot Michigan Rob. In addition, you can find us on Odyssey Radio, iHeartRadio, along with KPNL Radio, wherever podcasts are found as well, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Spreaker. We're found on Facebook at Texas Front Porch. You can also reach us by email at paracryptidencounters@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube to Texas Front Porch. Subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob. If you like and enjoy our content, the Super Chat is open. Super Chat is open. And also, go to our About pages on YouTube for Tex, for Rob. You can find all the updates on what we got going on. And in a minute here, we're going to get the show kicked off. And here we go. Hello, everybody. Sorry for that. I'm monitoring the controls here, and Tex ain't here, so I got to do everything. I got to be multi-talented today. So I hope you guys don't mind. And a couple of announcements I got to make. Myself, Tex, Jason, we're going to be at the Texas Bigfoot Conference in East Texas. And pretty cool thing about it, if you're there, come see us, check us out. We'll be there for 3 days. But we got something going on for everybody. And on the 15th of October in Marshall, Texas, we're going to be at the Jalapeno Tree at 6:30 p.m. That's on the 15th. We're going to hang out with you guys. If you're in the area, come down, hang out, chat with us. We'll share some stories and so on and so forth. So please see us in the Jalapeno Tree. That is in Marshall, Texas on the 15th at 6:30 p.m. I'm going to get into it. In the spirit of Halloween, I'm going to be bringing up Amy from What the Paranormal and subscribe to her on YouTube. And I'm really excited. I'm really excited to have these guys on. They've been on Texas Front Porch, and they've got a lot of great stories. They're as I said earlier, they're a mother and daughter investigative team in the paranormal, but they've also encountered many other things. We'll be talking even a little cryptids and so on and so forth. And let's get this show rolling. Amy, you there?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Well, thank you. Is Lainey there too?
Lainey is here. She is kind of going to be in the background for a few.
Well, hey, you know what? That's okay. We roll how we roll here on Brunch with Bigfoot at Michigan Rob, and thanks for joining us. And
you're very welcome.
We try to for October. Halloween is like my second favorite holiday, and yes, I call Halloween a holiday.
Yes, it is definitely.
Oh, Bobby Van Buren will be in Texas too. Sorry, Bob. I'm at the controls doing everything, and yes, Bob, I love Bob. Go check out his channel, Van Buren Variety, if you want lighthearted content. He's got great guests. I love Bob, and I can't wait to meet Bob for the first time as well. But the basic question, just to get started, is mother and daughter team, paranormal researchers, investigators, and what made you go down this line?
Well, my family is Chickasaw Indian. So I basically grew up around the paranormal. A lot of my family has different types of gifts, starting up with my grandfather. I didn't really know many before that, but my grandfather, my mother, they all have different types of gifts. So I grew up around it, developing our own gifts. And And then when I was 17, I decided to start doing investigations myself. And that went horribly wrong because I took the dark side of it, Ouija board, whole thing, which never touched one again after that. But then when my daughter was born, she had a lot of medical issues when she was born. She was born with plastic lung syndrome, which she ended up coding 4 different times. And by the age of 2, we realized she had lots of gifts. And so as she grew, we grew. We learned all about her gifts and just helped her develop her gifts, was trying to be there for her. And so it just kind of went from there. And we just love going to all these old places, and just, it's the mystery of it. It's the adrenaline rush. It's the not knowing. And I want to know. I'm like really bad about, if I don't know the answer to something, I need to find it. And so this is a great way for me to just keep my brain going all the time.
You mentioned these gifts. Now, for the audience listening and for myself, when you mentioned the gifts, what type of gifts did you like come upon? I mean, what made you think that you were different, or knew things that you maybe should know or you thought was strange?
Right. So mine, my mom is a dreamer. She dreams about things that are going to happen. So she's very cognitive. My grandfather was a dreamer. He was also not a full medicine man, but he was close to it. And he could see spirits, feel spirits, and speak to them. Um, Mine is more, I have more gifts with the living, which is weird. So I am a dreader, which I feel a sense of dread until something happens, and usually something bad happens. And once that something bad happens, the feeling just goes away. I never know what it is. I just know that something bad's coming. Um, I'm also somewhat of a dreamer, but I dream of present day more, and a little bit of the past. And I'm also, um, I don't really know what I would call it, but I can walk up to somebody, meet them, and I can see basically their soul, whether they have one or don't. And if they don't, that's very scary. But I can sense what type of person they are. So I can tell right then that I'm going to like them or not. And Lainey's gift, my whole family's empaths. Let's just start with that. We're all empaths. But Lainey, she has probably the biggest gifts out of all of us. She can see, feel, and hear spirits. She is also a dreamer. And there's just a lot of things going on with her. I don't say that she's psychic, but I think she's pretty close. So,
Right off the bat, you make mention about yourself, Amy, is that when a person is living, right, and you can
mhm,
look at them and you can see into them. And I'm
yes.
really intrigued now when you mention you can see if they have a soul or they don't have a soul.
Hmm.
I mean, for the average person, if I were, let's say that I had that ability and I could look at you and say, well, Amy has a good soul, has a evil soul, or you know what, I can't locate a soul.
Hmm.
How do you come about deriving or coming to what type of a soul or soulless person we're talking about?
So a lot of people will see auras around people. I don't see auras. I cannot see their colors, but I can go up to someone, and if I'm fine with them, I don't have any reaction at all. Generally, they are a good person. If I walk up to somebody and I start having like the rapid heartbeat, or I start feeling really anxious, or I just really want to get away from that person, um, I know they're not a good person, and it's someone I don't want to be around. Now, if they don't have a soul, that is totally different. It's like gut punching. It's scary. You can look into their eyes and you see no color. Like I could look into your eyes, see the color of your eyes, everything else. You see no color. You see nothing. Um, but it's like somebody's taking your insides and just twisting them all up, and it is the worst feeling in the world. And even though I know my insides are not twisting, I just want to get away from that person as quickly as possible. And I'm sorry for my bird. It's molting season, and she's in that, so she won't shut up.
That's
But
okay.
yeah, it is the worst feeling ever. It's so many emotions at one time, and you just want to completely get away from them.
So when you talk about seeing aura, it's funny. I was doing a show several months ago, and I was talking to a person who was an empath. They were kind of psychic, had telepathy, and they said, "Rob, I can see things around you right now that are very positive." So, which I thought, wow, I felt kind of strange when she had told me that, which I was glad to hear. I'm glad it wasn't no evil entity floating about me. But
Mhm.
when you look at somebody's aura, I'm trying to picture in layman's terms. I mean, what do you when you see someone's aura, right? Is it if you could paint a picture, is that like nice lights? Is it colors? Is it images of happiness? I mean, I'm trying to put my finger on an actual aura that you
So like
see.
an aura would be your energy that's casting off of your body. And so the way I explain it is it's almost like if you were doing, let's just say, a thumbnail, and you cropped yourself out of something and you put yourself on a picture, but you wanted to put a shadow around it or an outline. That's kind of what it is. It's like a little outline that casts like a little shadow around you. And to me, it's from what I've been told, because I don't see auras, but I do have some family members that do. They say it's like an energy. It's like an energy ball, um, and you can just see the color. And certain people put off certain colors, and certain people. There are some people that don't have an aura at all, and I believe those are the ones too that don't have souls. So, because everyone has their own color.
So is this kind of like, let's say that I'm at a friend's house or at a party, and I've got my cell phone out,
Hmm.
and I'm taking pictures of everybody in the party,
Hmm.
and I go back a day later and I go review the pictures. And I've heard the stories about a person would see a group of people and they remember taking the photo, and then they look back at this photo, and in the background they say images, whether they're of a person or of an animal or something other. Is that something that really does happen in photos? Do we actually capture these images in still pictures?
Oh, definitely, definitely. We catch them all the time, but we're also the first ones to say not everything, especially in digital pictures now, that is the easiest to manipulate. So every photo that gets sent to us, we go through it with a fine tooth comb. Like we do that on our live streams a lot with me and Melissa and Laura and April and Sandra. We'll pick through these pictures like crazy. To me, anything that's an actual spirit is going to be something that's more 3D ish. You're going to be able to see almost all around it. Um, there is pareidoia where you can look into the trees and look into a wall and see faces and stuff like that. What you're going to be looking for is something that's pulled away from those images, and not actually just set back on it. You don't want to think that every tree you look at is going to have 1,000 faces in it, because it is. If you look in a picture, you're looking for those ones that are kind of 3D-ish. They're stuck out away from the leaves and stuff like that, and it's not the light manipulating. So pictures are very hard. So a lot of people will use Polaroids, stuff like that when they go on investigations, which we have decided we're going to start doing, because it's really hard to manipulate a Polaroid picture. And now with all this editing and everything else, pictures are just, they're not as good as they used to be.
So, in other words, if you're taking a picture, you can, I mean, you've been doing this a while and you're
Hmm.
experienced at it. So, if you've seen a Polaroid, or let's say, and I don't know, a lot of people don't really have Polaroids, but let's say it's a cell phone picture. So, what you're
Right.
saying then, you can tell if something was added to the image, CGI perhaps, but now as you're talking about this 3D image, that, in your opinion, in your mind, from your years of doing this, that is something that is legitimate then.
Right. Right. And it's sometimes it's very hard to depict whether the image was put in or not, but we will actually sometimes try to recreate the photo, um, just to make sure, because it, I don't know, it's very hard to tell nowadays, but you can tell, and a lot of people think you can't, but you really can.
So let me ask you, why would a person like I've got we all have millions of pictures in our phones, and
Hmm.
I will tell you this: I've never seen anything like that in a picture of a phone. So let's say you're taking a picture of me and Tex, and we meet up in Texas, one day, and let's say there's an image there. A person, why would a background have an image for me, but not for text or anybody? What's that about? Is this something about the person that there's these entities that are attracted to them, or is it like you say, just an energy?
It could be the location that you're at that somebody comes up, but it also could be because I know a lot of people, they will have spirits connected to them. I know we've had several connected to us that kind of show up everywhere we go. So if you do have spirits that are connected to you, uh, they definitely could be following you around, and they could show up in just odd random pictures that you have. But if um, there was like two or three different pictures, that's another thing you want to look at. Is it showing up on every single picture, or is it showing up in like the fourth picture you took? So when we take pictures at a place, if we take a picture of one item, we take about 10 photos of that item, just so we can rule out maybe it was a shadow, maybe it was a glare. We want to rule out everything. So you don't always just take one picture. But now, if you're just randomly taking a picture of an event that you're at or something, you're not going to take 20 pictures of one photo. Um, so that kind of, it's hard to tell on some of those certain photos, but a lot of people do add the stuff in on their own, and that's the notoriety. They want to be the next big thing, and have the best evidence. And that just, when people are actually committed to paranormal investigation, they can tell that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and not to go off topic a little bit, and what you just said, you and Laney, you take what you do very seriously,
Yes.
and doesn't it irk you? I mean, there's so many, we see all these shows, ghost hunters, everything on TV, yada yada, and doesn't it irk you though and doesn't it hinder as a paranormal investigator? Does it not hinder your work moving forward, because for every step you take forward there's somebody out there that's totally fabricating things? How tough is that for you when you're out there explaining yourself, and you have your show What the Paranormal on YouTube? Everybody go subscribe. So when you have your videos and you're talking to people, does it make it difficult for you when there's people out there that are just totally out there to make the quick dollar or get the quick 15 minutes of fame? How difficult is that?
It's very difficult. And me and Lainey, and especially a lot of the groups that we work with, we love skeptics. We absolutely love them, because if they're seeing things that we're seeing, it makes our evidence so much more validated. But a lot of these shows are very entertaining, um, but it does make it hard for people who do go out and do this, legitimately, and want to prove what we find, because our stuff gets picked through so much, and that's fine with us. We're good with that, because I'm not going to put something out and say I believe this is paranormal if I haven't already picked through it myself. So if people want to, pick through our stuff, that's good. It's great for us, because when they actually do see it, then it's like, yes, we did, we caught something good. But as far as the faking and stuff like that, I mean, it goes back to Hollywood for me, because they make so many mistakes in their movies. It's so funny to watch some of them. And if people actually watched our investigations fully, they would be so bored. Um, we are usually at a location for 6 to 8 hours, and usually we'll get about 15 minutes of good quality content. Um, so if I understand that they need things to happen, but I also understand, it makes it very difficult for us that are actually doing this to prove that there is something there.
Yeah, it's like for the average 1 hour television show. I'm not going to name any show. In 1 hour, you're going to have three different voices that you hear. There might be those stick figure impressions that they show
Hmm.
with their equipment, which we'll get into. And for the average person, right? They're thinking, "Wow, look at all these things they're capturing." But if it's a legitimate operation, Amy, you could be sitting there in a haunted house, let's say, as an example, for several days. I mean, you might have hours upon hours of
Yes.
footage that you get nothing. and then when you finally get something, you're amazed. And these people that act like, there's activity in abundance, that's really not true, is it?
No, no, it's unless a place is like so extremely haunted. And we have been to a couple of those places where we've gotten activity upon activity, but 9 times out of 10, the places that we go to, we're not going to hear anything. And we've been told by people that we look up to and that are our mentors, just for YouTube's sake, if me and Lainey went into a place and we heard a noise, because me and Lainey are so used to it, we're just like, oh, what was that noise? You know, so no one's going to watch that. So sometimes you have to be like, oh my God, what was that? You know, that to me is not, that to me is not a bad thing. Kind of getting your energy up, or something for the video, because people watch our videos to feel what we're feeling. So if we're like, oh, there was a noise, or oh, that door just popped open, no one's going to want to watch that. So I understand the let's make it a little more entertaining for people. But as far as like tying strings to stuff and pulling it open and all that, you can't do that kind of stuff and make it look legitimate.
Yeah.
People are just not going to take you serious.
And I do understand too when it comes, let's say that you're on an investigation, and let's say you're at a place for 3 hours, and let's say you get maybe two or three quality images or voices or whatever it is you're looking for or hear or come across. I mean, in fairness, I do understand that you're not going to roll that on a YouTube video for 3 hours and have the person to sit there and watch nothing, because you're going to, people are going to get bored with that. So I get that
Yes.
you're going to edit and splice it all together. It's
Hmm.
just these people that say that, hey, this has been happening every 3 minutes. And as you did make mention of, there are some places that it's just abundant of
Hmm.
spirits, ghosts, and everything. So I do get what you're saying. And I think a lot of times people don't understand that.
Yeah, it's very hard to get that through to a lot of people because they think we just go out and film something and we get just that evidence and then we go home. There's so much leading up to an investigation and so many hours and grueling hours of editing afterwards, just so we can put in the parts that we actually did catch something. Now, we'll put in, even if we didn't get anything in a place, we'll still make a video out of it. It can turn into an urbex video or something like that, because if a place doesn't have anything happen, that's okay with us. Um,
Mhm.
but yet we still can't put out that 6 hour video that we just filmed because it is so boring, and we get
Right.
bored a lot just waiting for that one thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's hard to get people to understand that it's not just
Yes.
go out, get something, and then go home. It
Yeah.
don't happen that way.
And I can actually kind of understand that. How often does this happen, Amy and Laney? If you were, let's say you spent 3 hours of filming and you're filming, you're using the naked eye, your cameras are rolling, video is rolling, and you sense nothing. You're sitting there, yeah, let's pack it in, let's go home. Then you get home expecting nothing, and then you go back and start watching the video or looking at the pictures, the snapshots. How many times though have you picked up things that are on the video or on the picture that you had no clue was there when you were actually at the house, let's say?
That happens to us a lot more than most people would think. Sometimes we'll be heading home and it's like so sad in the car. We're just so disappointed because a lot of these places you spend a lot of money traveling to them, paying to get into them, and everything else. So when we do actually get something like that, it's like the first time every time. I'm not even lying when I say that. I'll get so excited when I hear it. I'll go wake Lainey up. Lainey, come listen to this. Look, we actually did get something.
Yeah.
And so
You know,
that just makes our night.
I was about to say, I can tell by your voice. It's almost like you're sitting there and you think you've got nothing. You go home. It's probably like Christmas morning, right?
Yeah, it is. It's like the gift that you didn't think you were going to get, and you can't help but get excited about it.
And I think that would be cool. I think that would be so cool to be sitting there being bored, and all of a sudden, yeah, let's go check out the video, and you've got something. That's great. And I appreciate your hard work. I wanted to start with the show about the hard work that you girls do put in. And I do know that you have a lot of great evidence. In fact, you've got, we'll get into it a little later with Tex over there, Brown Springs, when
Hmm.
you guys went with him. And I know that you can corroborate a lot of things that he says. And as far as with that, what you get there, there's something going on over there, isn't there?
Oh, definitely. Brown Springs is probably one of my favorite places to go. And I started out just paranormal, but Brown Springs has definitely turned me half cryptid, I guess you could say, because it just the paranormal, cryptid, and whatever else is going on there. There's so much. There's so much. It's a paranormal investigator and cryptid's dream place.
We're going to get into that a little bit later about the cryptids and the paranormal, because I know you guys got a cool story about that. But one of you guys' passion is, in your bio that I was reading, one of the things you guys love doing is you like getting in your car and taking a drive and randomly finding like abandoned or haunted places like bridges or ghost towns. What is one of your favorite investigations that you just randomly went out on the road one day and you hit a spot, whether it's a house, or a bridge, or what have you? What's something that comes to mind?
So I think, and I know we're going to be discussing this here in a little bit. I
Yeah.
think one of our favorite places that we found has been Denver Cemetery, and we had heard that there was a ghost town out, you know, past our town and stuff a little bit, and you just had to go down these dirt roads to find it. And I think we were just driving around and we saw the rock, and it was the established so and so, and it had the first community members' names on it. And we started going down the road a little bit, and we passed it a little bit, and I said, "Oh, there's the cemetery." And we backed up and we pulled in. And as soon as we pulled in, me and Lainey both went, "Oh," we could feel it from the
So
start,
you got an energy immediately. You got
right
some sort
away,
of energy.
right away from that
Okay.
place. Yes, and that was a daytime trip. We did that in the daytime, and we could feel. We just toured it, kind of filmed it a little bit, and said, "Okay, we're definitely coming back here at nighttime." Um, it was very active in the daytime. We were hearing all kinds of stuff, seeing all kinds of stuff, and then we were okay. Let's just come back at nighttime whenever we're not going to be able to see everything coming at us, and that ended up being some really good videos with really good evidence. And so yeah, that was probably one of our best finds.
So what did you find? Now, we're not talking about the cemetery that I'm going to allude to earlier.
Yeah.
This is the Denver Cemetery.
Yes, this is the Denver Cemetery, and this is the one I was talking about earlier, with
O-
the paranormal and cryptid activity. So
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, I think we might want to save that one just a little bit. But let me tell you, because I know that's something we want to get into. What about what do you find that has more activity? Is it the cemetery in general, or haunted houses, or does it just matter on the presence or the energy in these locations?
I think it just matters what happened in that area, or because a lot of people would assume that cemeteries would get you all kinds of stuff, and honestly, unless it's a very old cemetery like the one we're going to speak of, um, you don't just get a whole lot. I mean, I don't think spirits randomly just hang around their headstones to see who comes and visits them. I believe spirits can move from place to place. So I think it's just kind of what happened there, the the type of energy that's there, because there's all different kinds of activity, So I think it just depends on the place. But we've had, I think, some of the houses that we've been to, they've been more active than cemeteries or anything like that.
When you're investigating a house, let's say, do you think though? Let me with the millions of people. I don't know if the number is millions. A lot of investigators. I don't care if it's paranormal research, Bigfoot research, UFO research, but we're talking about. And correct me if I'm wrong. Here's my what I think about a ghost or an entity. It's something that hasn't left this plane. It's in this dimension, but it hasn't gone either heaven or hell. It's a ghost. Now, and these 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 bodies, these apparitions, they're where they're at. Do they get kind of I guess, do you guys like piss them off? Not you in general, that
Mhm.
you're always bothering them. It seems like all these people investigating. If I was a trapped spirit or soul or whatever, however you want to define it, I think I'd be mad that they're picking through my business or trying to find what's going on all the time. Does that you feel that energy sometimes? And can that lead to like some maybe life, maybe not life threatening, but can that lead to some bad experiences in the field?
Yes, it definitely can. And we have always, that's one thing we thrive on, is being as respectful to spirits as, I would be so angry. You got to watch, because people watch your videos. You never know who's going to be watching. So I would be angry as heck if I went onto a video and somebody was standing around, say, my grandmother's headstone, and they were like, get out here and talk to us now, and cussing and screaming. I would hope and pray that my grandma would reach up out of there and just grab them and yank them down or throw them around a little bit or something. So we're always as respectful as we can be. We've had an investigation where we were investigating a woman that was murdered. Her family ended up watching the videos, and they contacted us and wanted to go out and do an investigation with us to try to get some answers. So you never know who's going to be watching your videos. And yes, spirits will definitely let you know if they're done. Like if they don't want to answer any more questions, they will let you know. And we're never disrespectful to spirits unless they're disrespectful to us first, and that's only to protect ourselves.
You know,
Um,
yeah, you make up a good point. Let me ask you something. Let's say you're doing an investigation on a murder where you know there was a murder that went down. Let's
mhm.
say that you investigate it and you come up with maybe some evidence or whatever. And let's say that you make a video, you put it on your channel. What the Paranormal, by the way, everybody on YouTube, go subscribe. How delicate is that of a situation? Let's say you come across a murder scene or a murder investigation. Let's say that it's 10 years old and you decide to post the video on your findings. Do you contact these people prior to releasing a video out of respect, or is this something that, I mean, how sensitive is that?
It can be very sensitive, especially if it's like we do cold cases a lot, but we do that for like our members only, because I don't do a cold case unless I know the people or I know exactly what happened in it. We will do that for our members only, just to keep it more private. But it's very, we did not know the family. And we've done several, just like Heather's Bridge. That was a case that's very close to us. But we did contact their family, try to make contact with them, and they never responded back or anything. So we do try to get in touch with some of the families, but like with the girl that was murdered, we did not know. We went there for a different reason, and we ended up finding what we thought was a grave in the woods, and it ended up being her memorial. And so when we looked up what had happened, then we started asking questions and stuff like that, and we started getting amazing responses. Um, and then that's when the family contacted us, because they heard a lot that made sense to them, and they wanted more answers. But we try to steer clear of stuff like anything current. We will not do anything current. That's to me, that's just very disrespectful.
Yeah. So in other words, what you'll do is you'll pull research on a case that's 20, 30 years
Hmm.
old and it's ready. You can
Yes.
find it in the paper. So really what you're doing, or not you per se, but when you do a case like that, it's already public knowledge. You're just going out and
Right.
creating your own private investigation on it.
Yes.
And I do get that. And I have a question, and it's going to sound like a dumb question, but I've never really had an answer that's kind of satisfied me. What is a ghost?
So a ghost, I honestly don't know where that name came from. To be
Hmm.
honest, I still haven't researched that far back, but it's just the energy of a spirit. So it's not actually a form of a person. They can take form, which I have not seen personally yet. I know Lainey has. I've seen a shadow figure of a person, but the ghost or spirit per se is just their energy. That's all it
Right.
is. It's their energy. Their body is no longer there. It's their soul, their energy, um, that's left behind. It's their memories. I like to say it that way. It's their memories.
Okay, and we watched. Let's say we were watching again. I hate to refer to shows on television, but I watched a
Mhm.
show, and they're in a haunted house, and they've got their equipment, and we can get in some of the equipment you guys use. Again, in layman's terms, I know nothing really about paranormal investigations, but what is? Well, I'm sitting there. We're doing a haunted house investigation. They have it on video, and then they see this stick figure. It looks like just sticks, and they're
Mhm.
connected, and they're kind of walking around. You know what I'm talking about?
The dowsing rods, yes.
That's what that is. So,
Yes.
okay, I'm just saying this just to say this. Is that an actual spirit, or is that just something that TV made up to get
Oh,
to
okay. He's
entertain
talking
people?
about. So you're not talking about the dowsing rods. You're talking about the
Yeah, I don't know what a dowsing rod is. We
what
can
is it
get into
called?
that. I'm just talking about the stick
We
figures.
don't use that ourselves, but I have seen it actually done. Um, and so at first I was very skeptical of it
Yeah,
because I think that can be manipulated for TV and stuff like that. But I have actually seen it in person where the person said, okay, if this is you and you can hear us and understand us, raise your right arm. And the spirit would raise its right arm. So unless that was all um, put into it, you would not be able to do that. So if I was watching it live myself and I saw it do this, then I was just like, whoa, okay, so maybe this does work. But I do think those can easily be manipulated.
yeah. I was watching this, and it kind of looked like a stick figure of a
Mm-hmm.
robot. It kind of went through all the motions, and I'm like, man, I don't know. And again, and that's just, I don't. I'm not saying anything negative about the investigation. I just I didn't buy it, and I'll just be honest with that. And I just wondered what that was. And I know it's a television show, Hollywood produced. Paranormal Pixie in chat says I'm talking about. Maybe you know what this is. ITC.
ITC, yeah,
Yeah,
and it's
it's
I cannot remember what they call it though.
I don't
What
either.
investigators call it? It's I don't ever plan on using it, um, but I do know it has a specific name, but I can't think of it right now.
Oh yeah, that's okay. I just had to bring that question up because I'm like, man, I
Oh,
like
what's
the
it
ones
called?
where if I didn't see that, I'd be cool with it. And let me ask, when we're talking about, I was looking some of your videos. You got some cool videos, and what is this one? If you could tell our audience, there was it was one of your newer videos again on what the paranormal. Go subscribe about you. It reminds me of Tex. Tex had a story about playing cards
Hmm.
at the haunted hill, right?
Yes,
And you've had a video on a cowboy playing cards.
yes.
And I'll let you describe it and talk about that.
Okay, so we go to the Hill House Manor, which is in Gainesville, Texas. They went to the Hill House in Mineral Wells.
Okay.
Um, the house that we go to, there's a cowboy that was killed there, and he loves playing cards. So me and Lainey decided one night. I think James was there with us that night as well, and we were going to play poker with the cowboy. So we decided we're going to play John Wayne. No wilds, no draw, just regular poker like they would have back in the day. Um, and we dealt the cards. The first card he got aces and eights the first time we dealt, which was bad enough. And then the next time we dealt the cards, he got 666. And so that freaked us all out. And so, of course, most people would just be like, okay, to heck with this. We're not doing it again. We decided every single time we go there, we're going to play cards with the cowboy.
Right.
And every single time he gets dealt somewhere in the night, 666. And that generally makes all the equipment go off and everything. We've done live streams. We've done, we've had cameras all around us so people can watch. And we opened up a brand new deck after he just got 666. Opened up a brand new deck of cards, shuffled them about 30 times in front of everyone, dealt the cards, and he got 666. Well, me and Lainey both, and my husband, we all keep getting the number 666 at the grocery store, at the gas station, at everywhere. We see that number everywhere on license plates, phone numbers. And so we're like, I wonder if the cowboy followed us home. So the video that you watched from the other night, that was us playing cards with the cowboy.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided to set the scene for him a little bit. We got the shot glasses out, we got the whiskey out. And we played cards with the cowboy. And at one point in time, he got 6-6, but he didn't get the last 6. And so a lot of people are saying, well, maybe it's because he doesn't have enough energy there yet or whatever. But there was so much, because the K2 meter that we use, every single time we took the whiskey away from Cowboy, the K2 meter would go crazy. It was like it really ticked him off that we took his whiskey. And so that's what we're trying to figure out, is if Cowboy did follow us home. But we've been doing this for 5 years with the Cowboy, and every single time, no fail, when we're at the Hill House, he gets 666.
Yeah, I tell you what, if I were to go with you guys, and I think in the future I'm going to, we'll have to hook up. I think I would need a bottle of whiskey to go on a ghost investigation.
Yeah, because we do test it to the limit sometimes, but we try to stay as careful as possible, especially if people are with us. But that to me, it awes me every single time. And we still, to this day, as soon as he gets it, we jump up from the table and we're like, you know, the last video before the one we did at the house, I was like, Lainey stood up and I stood up and I told Lainey, sit. You know, it was just so chaotic, and we were still so amazed every single time he gets it. It still throws us for a loop.
You know, I have seen ghosts, or I think I've seen ghosts. Well, I did at my bar at one time. We'll get into that a little bit later. I want to allude to another video I want you guys to talk about, which was pretty cool. The toe of Satan.
Oh. So
in the spirit of Halloween, right?
Yeah. This is, I do a lot of hot challenges and stuff like that on my channel.
Okay.
Lainey's been trying to do some with me here and there, and she's done really good at the ones that she does. But another channel named Bat Rican, he decided, because I have been avoiding this forever, because it's 9 million Scoville units and you have to hold it in your mouth for 5 minutes. And he said, oh, that would make a great video for y'all for Halloween, you know, just do the toe of Satan. And I was just like, I've been avoiding it. I really don't want to do that one. And so he sends it to me in the mail. And I'm the type of person that if I get challenged to do something, as long as it's not going to kill me, I do it, because I can't stand somebody being able to say, oh, she didn't do it. So I did it. And that was the worst 5 minutes of my life. Took me forever to get rid of the burn. And then the next day we did the 1 chip challenge. So that was a pretty, or 2 days after, or the day after. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the day after I did the 1 chip challenge, me and Lainey. So that was pretty, that may have ended my career as a hot eater. Oh. Because doing 2 back to back was not good. It did not feel good at all.
I'd imagine that. You know, Lainey, your mom's been doing some talking. You guys are a mother and daughter investigative team. Not to put you on the spot, Lane. Give me what's one of the scarier things you've come across with your mother out there in the field?
It would probably have to be at the Denver.
Yeah, and that's the one we're going to discuss in a little bit.
Yeah, you know, everybody, we're going to talk about this at the second half of the show, because I know it's to be really cool. It's got a mixture of, I assume, cryptids and ghosts. And let me ask you something. There's another thing you do, which I found interesting. What are these para games you guys play?
That's the mom's fault.
So what? She's blaming me for it. So right now, my husband is in New Mexico working, and we are stuck basically here in Oklahoma because our truck is having a new motor put in and all this other stuff. And so it was hard for us to get out and do videos. So, and I was thinking outside the box. People were getting kind of bored with the normal paranormal stuff that we were doing and stuff like that. So I decided to come up with a challenge to put out to everyone that wanted to join. We started with 35 teams. And now we are down to, I think, 15 teams. And every week I put out a new challenge for everybody. And they have to complete this challenge. They have to do raw footage to where they do no editing on their video. So we're kind of going back to the basics with it. We're using candles. We're using mirrors. We're using just our own intuition. No other. We are using spirit boxes, so that's kind of the biggest mainstream thing that we're doing. But
I already quit.
Lainey already quit. But there's 10 of us that are, or 15 of us that are still in, And we've already done the main 5 challenges, and now we're working towards bonus rounds because people are just, we're starting the 7th challenge tonight. So people are just not giving up. They're not giving in. And we've got some pretty brave teams out there. So it's been really cool to see all the evidence that we've been collecting, just doing the basics and not really throwing a bunch of stuff in there.
That's pretty. That's pretty cool. And I wanted to ask you too. Do you think that certain apparitions or entities that they follow a person around?
Oh, definitely.
'Cause I
Definitely.
I do want to touch on something, and I didn't really find this out until maybe a few years ago when I was a little kid. And when I say this, it's not to sound comedic. I saw a goat as a kid. I thought I was dreaming. There was a in my bedroom. My wall in my rooms was painted like sky blue. And
Mhm.
at night, I'd always see a ghost on the wall kind of dancing about. And this ghost, you guys, is just like a cartoon ghost. It's like what you see in Scooby Doo. All it was, if you could picture a person with a white sheet over their body with the eyes cut out, but the eyes are black and its arms are extended and it's just kind of floating around. So, yeah, for me, it looked like a cartoon. I was about 6, 7 years old. And I'd seen it for many years. And then I kind of grew up and I never seen it again. I figured as a kid, I was just a kid. That was my imagination. I get married. I move into this house with my wife, ex-wife now, but and this is like 20 years later. I'm in the bedroom. And it's funny because our walls in the bedroom were sky blue. I don't know if this has any significance.
Mhm.
One night, I see this ghost. Again, the white sheet over the body with the black eyes parading around on the wall. I woke up in a sweat, scared, literally scared. It did not give me a sense of dread or evil, but it was just there and it sparked. And I immediately went back to my childhood. I was like, that is identical what I saw. I wake up my wife. Did you see anything on the wall? Well, no, you're dreaming. I've seen that. I seen it like 20 years later. And I
Mhm.
was just wondering, was I dreaming or was that something again, it sounded like a comic strip, right? So I really brushed it aside as nothing. Have
Now,
you heard of such a story?
to me, spirits can like show themselves in any way. Like, so as a child, that could have been maybe the ghost wasn't trying to scare you or something, so maybe it did come out that way. um Now I have had dreams to where I see spirits or feel spirits, and then I wake up and it's like they were actually there. um so it could have been a dream, and you could have like just something in your subconscious kind of made you remember it when you were up older, and then you just all of a sudden dreamed it again. Or you could have actually seen it when you were a child. And most children outgrow it if they're not, um, and I'm not going to say groomed, but like with
Yeah.
Blaney, she had all this stuff happening, and me and my husband both knew what was going on, so we helped her develop her gifts. We didn't like make her feel bad about them or say, oh, it was an imaginary friend or anything like that. So in time, most kids forget about that kind of stuff, and then subconsciously you could see something or hear something that maybe triggers that memory, and you have no clue what it means, but then you dream about it again or you see it again because you were triggered with that memory. Because most kids don't follow up with it. They can see spirits well.
Yeah.
They're very sensitive to them, but once they grow up to a certain age, they just forget about it and it's no longer a thing. That was their imaginary friend that they had. So,
And and maybe this will make sense to you. I'm open-minded. At least I thought I was open-minded growing up because I did believe in ghosts. I believed in monsters.
mhm,
Hell, I even believed in Bigfoot to an extent as a kid because I saw the Leonard Nimoy, in search
right.
of, and I was into it. So I'm a person that believes in everything. But when life goes on, you don't investigate these things. You might read a book or two, you might read an article, and that was me. I grew up, went to college, got married, and life went on. And I will say that when I was married, we used to go to a lot of these. what do you call them? The shops, the antique shops,
Yeah.
and we had a room full of curio cabinets filled
Uh,
with a whole bunch of stuff picked up at these shops. And when my wife started buying this stuff, weird things started happening in the
mm-hmm.
house. A piece of furniture might have been moved over. I would physically see it, but a piece of furniture might have been moved a foot to the right. A picture might have fallen off the wall. And looking back, these weird things, a glass would fall from a shelf. And I
Right.
tell you, these things did not start happening until after we start purchasing these things at these old antique shops.
Right.
And I'm wondering, Amy, Laney, is that something that we brought home?
Yeah,
More than
possibly could
likely.
be, yeah.
Yeah. Antique shops, estate sales, stuff like that. It's like,
Those are mom's best friends.
yeah, they're my best friends because I love going in. And if I feel a certain energy around something, I buy it. Whether I need it or not, 9 times out of 10, I buy it. I'm working on my museum. But yeah, if there's something attached to something if they pass away and there's something that they really cared about or whatever, they may attach themselves to that. And so if you go to a store and you buy it, you're bringing whatever's attached to that home. So you have to be really careful with stuff that you bring home from places like that, or honestly, from the grocery store. The spirit can attach itself to whatever it wants.
I've heard all that. I want to talk about these attachments. We're coming up on the 52-minute break. For everybody on iHeartRadio, everybody listening on Odyssey Radio, your show is ending. Our show is going to continue, so you're going to have to subscribe to Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, or Texas Front Porch to get the second half. Because in the second half, I do want to talk about these attachments, and I also want to get into the attack in the Ghost Town Cemetery in Denver. And I have so many questions to keep going. This is a fantastic show. We're going to take a 5-minute break and be back with Amy and Laney of What the Paranormal. And everybody listening on the radio site, subscribe to What the Paranormal. Fabulous guest, fabulous show. We'll be back in 5.
4 minutes to go, folks. 4 minutes. Three minutes. We're almost there. 2-minute warning, guys. 2-minute warning. One minute. 1 minute.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. I've got a great show going on with What the Paranormal with Amy and Laney, mother and daughter investigative team. Awesome show. Everybody, don't forget, Tex, Jason, BMR, Randy, Bob Van Buren will be in Marshall, Michigan. We'll be doing a at the Peachtree, Jalapeno Peachtree. We'll be doing a meet and greet. Come on down. We'll pay for your chips and salsa, but your drinks, well, you're on your own for that. If you want to come on down, come check us out. We're on 5 days a week. Everybody, please subscribe to our channels. We have a lot of variety on our channels. We talk cryptids. We've been getting into the paranormal a lot lately, and we're going to continue on with that with What the Paranormal. And I appreciate everybody out there. If I hadn't said hi to anybody, I love you all. I'm running everything. I'm still trying to get acclimated to typing, talking, and listening all at the same time. And that's okay. Amy, I hear the parakeets in the background. It's kind of soothing.
Yeah. She's not liking
not liking it.
Soothing to an extent.
We're going to talk about before we get into the big cemetery attacks and such, and a few other things. I still want to talk a little bit about these attachments, just a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And how does one, let's say, I've had something happen, and I tell you what, you guys, I think I had a Bigfoot encounter in 2018, and it seems like, and I thought I was an open-minded person prior to my incident. And it seems that after having this strange encounter, you guys, and I've really had an open mind to everything, and now it just seems like I see things all the time. And a quick story, and I want you guys to think about this. I owned a bar, and a late night, and I think this bar was haunted, and it was back in Prohibition time. This bar was open during Prohibition.
Mm-hmm.
And one night I'm in the basement because that's where my office was. And I heard a clanking of glasses, and I heard sounds upstairs, up in the bar area. It was already closed. It was 3:30 in the morning. And I went up to see, to check out what was going on. And I asked if any employees were left. Nope, I was the only one there. All the doors were locked. I go back into the basement in the office. You guys, and this is a long story. I'm going to keep it brief just to get your thoughts on this. So as I'm going up the stairs, I happened to glance down in my bar. One of my bar areas was a square, and at the corner of this bar, there was a bottle of Jack Daniels. It was open, and it was sitting on the corner of the bar. And I know that I cleaned off the bar at closing time, and there was also a bottle of wine sitting there. And there was two shot glasses, and there was two wine glasses there. And one of the shot glasses was full, the other one was half full, and the wine bottle, the cork was uncorked, and the wine glasses had a bit of wine in it. And I said, I'm talking to myself, Rob, how did I miss that? It was just so obvious. So I turn around for a minute to go check on something. Then I look back, you guys, and I see four apparitions sitting at the corner of the bar where the Jack Daniels bottle was and the wine. And I can see four ghosts or apparitions, whatever you want to call them. And they were dressed. They looked like there was two men. They appeared like they looked like back in the days of Prohibition. They had like those suits on with the fedora hats, and it appeared there was two other like women, and they had like they looked like flappers, like those
Right.
frilly dresses. So there's four people there, and they are kind of chattering, talking, but I can't make out what they're saying. And I'm staring at this, and I'm probably about 50 feet away, but I don't know what I'm looking at. And I'm kind of looking around. I'm pinching myself. Rob, what do you see here? And you could see through them. You could see through the apparitions to the other side of the bar. And I don't know why I did this, you guys, but I said, hey, what's going on? They continued on, minding their own business, ignoring me. I say, hey, what's going on? I don't even know who I'm talking to. I know they're not humans. I know they're not physical bodies.
Right.
Third time, I take a step forward, then all of a sudden, in unison, these four apparitions, they look at me. And I stopped in my tracks. I said, what is going on here? And now I'm frozen. I'm not scared, but I am. It was just, I had all sorts of thoughts going through my mind.
Right.
What really shook my britches, as Tex would say, this shot glass, one of these shot glasses, one of the apparitions, it was one of the men, this shot glass now rises, you guys, from the top of the bar, midway into the air, suspended off of the top of the bar. I go, what? I said, what? Whatever I said. Then, all of a sudden, the shot glass fell from these transparent fingers, hit the top of the bar. It broke. And, a shot glass is very hard to break. They're thick, and it's shattered. And the whiskey gets dispersed about the top of the bar. And I'm looking at these things, and they all kind of gave me this grin. And then they slowly started to fade away. But as they faded away, you guys, their appearance changed from younger looking people, probably in their 30s, I'm guessing. But it seemed like just you would see in a movie. And they slowly started turning older, and older, until it was almost like a skeleton. And then they dissipated into the air. I stood there it had been 5 minutes. I was too scared to move. I go to the bar, and sure enough, it was physical glass was broken. There was whiskey on the bar. The cork in the bottle of new wine was opened, and I cleaned up, and I left. And then I told my employees this, thinking that, hey, Rob, you're nuts. And I normally never close the bar too often at night. And they told me, Rob, we never really told you because we wanted to keep our jobs. We didn't want you to think that we were tipping a bottle when you left work. They've experienced lots of, not seeing what I saw, but they experienced a lot of, all of a sudden they'd clean up a bar or a table, there'd be a beer bottle sitting there. When they know they wiped it down, they've heard things and dishes break. And they told me this. So you guys, and again, this looked like it was back in maybe the 1920s or 40s. I don't know what the era was, but it seemed to me it was during like the gangster, like John Dillinger time, with the clothes that they were wearing. I mean, what was that? Did I actually see something, or was it? I know it wasn't a figment of my imagination, or do you think it was trapped souls? Because this bar had been there since like the early 1800s. This property's always been there. There's been several different bars throughout the times that have elapsed. So I saw a ghost, I imagine, eh?
Yes. Yes. And at first I thought you were maybe talking about a residual haunting where they do the same thing over and over again, generally the day of their death. But now the more you were saying, it sounds more like an intelligent haunting. These spirits knew what they were doing, and they probably cost you quite a bit of money, taking drinks every night. That is something we thrive to see, and you saw it. That's amazing.
It's almost like you read my mind talking about cost me a lot of money because I had a pretty cool. I did this for 13 years, so by year 7, I finally figured out how to keep track of my inventory.
Mhm.
With people overpouring, underpouring. I can tell. I know what it costs for a bottle of whiskey. I know what it costs for a barrel of beer, a bottle of beer. So I kind of know how much money I should take in and not. And I will tell you this. And I tell you what, my people that work for me, they work with me for many years, and I trusted
Mhm.
them. In fact, I trusted them to the point that when I had a big Bigfoot encounter, which rattled my brains, I didn't go to work for 6 months, and I let them run it. I just told them, please don't rip me off. Just deposit the money in the bank because I was very distraught on my encounter.
Right.
I'm sure you've heard the story before,
Yes.
and I trusted them. So I know that they weren't skimming. Hey, you know what? Yes, I know that after hours they probably drank a beer or had a shot. And
Mhm.
you know what? I'm not a jerk. I did not care. That was a fringe benefit. As
Yeah.
long as you don't overindulge our customers. No, you when you pour a drink, you pour them to drink to our specifications. If you want to buy them one, that's fine, but don't overindulge with the customer.
Right.
Yourselves after work, you want a few drinks, do it. But I noticed there were months where I'd be like $200-300,
Mhm.
and I know it wasn't my employees drinking that much.
Right.
And there would be many times in the morning where my people that would open a bar would say that, yeah, Rob, I'm sorry, we thought that this place was clean, but there was open bottles laying around, and we could never put our finger on it
Right.
until I seen what I saw, and I put two and two together. I'm like, but then again, you guys, an average person can't drink, right?
Well, I mean, technically, we don't know. We don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, I know you don't, but I'm thinking, I don't think they can consume anything. I mean, I can see through it. I mean, they're not a physical
Mhm.
being,
But maybe in
so
their mind they are. And so what's there left is basically waste. So they were, and it'd be interesting to see if it was a certain day of the week that the the money was not matching up with the pours, because maybe this was a spot that they all come to at a certain night or certain nights. That would be very interesting to see if it all coincided every week on the same days.
yeah. And so, my follow-up question is then this: if you see something like I apparently saw ghosts as a kid, I apparently saw ghosts in my marital home. Obviously, I saw ghosts at the bar. Once you just like a Bigfoot, a lot of people once they have one encounter, they're apt to have a few other encounters. There are
Mhm.
people that have been researching for 40 years, never seen Bigfoot. I just happened across a Bigfoot on a whim, right?
Mhm.
And ever since that, back in 2018, I see all sorts of things. And I'm just wondering, once I think it's because I've opened my mind more to it. So my question
Yes.
is, when you see something for the very first time and you believe in it, can these manifestations just occur all the time then, or more frequently?
You're more apt to see it. Yes, definitely. And I say that's why a lot of people don't want to believe in ghosts, because once they do, they can't take it back. That's, once you see something, you can't unsee it. And so, yes, definitely when you see something, your mind is more open to it. So you are more aware of things that happen around you. People can say, oh, that glass fell off because there was water up underneath it, or, something like that. But once you actually physically see something that caused that to happen, you can't unsee it. So
Yes.
therefore, you're done. You're done for. You will see it from now on. So I say that's why a lot of people do not want to go on an investigation. They don't want to see it because then they cannot unsee it.
I saw it and I will never unsee it because I think now that it's cool. And by the way, shout out to Spaced Out Radio, Dave Scott. And yes, I will have an autographed bandana for you, perhaps for your big birthday bash coming up. Thank you, Dave, for that. Thank you for everybody in chat that has put out super chats here tonight. So yeah, I seen something. I'm convinced that I did. In fact, it's just something again that when you see something for the very first time, your mind is open, and I believe it wholeheartedly. Not so much 5 years ago, but today, I see lots of different things. And speaking of seeing different things, we got to get into this story because I think our audience is going to enjoy it. And you're talking about being attacked. You were physically attacked in a ghost town, a cemetery. And I tell you what, in the spirit of Halloween, let's unfold this tale and let's get on with it.
Okay, so the Rosie's going crazy right now. The ghost town cemetery that we went to, we went during the daytime. We said we're going to go back at night. Well, we ended up going on Christmas Day night, actually. Rosie, shh.
The bird is soothing. It's soothing.
Well, Lainey left the room and she decided she was going to throw a fit about it. But yeah, we decided we're going to go at nighttime, and it was very cold. Generally on investigations, I don't have any attacks at all. I've been very lucky with that. Right off the get-go, we start doing a necrophonic session, and I started feeling like a stabbing pain in the back of my head, like somebody was taking a knife and just stabbing me in the back of the head. So I was like bending over in pain. It hurt so bad. And then Lainey started saying, "Do not touch my mom. You're not allowed to touch my mom. You need to leave her alone." And within a minute, the pain went away. We decided to go on with our investigation. And so we get going, and I'd say about 15 minutes into it, we start hearing all kinds of stuff around us. We feel like we're being watched every angle, and we get to a certain spot of the cemetery. And granted, me and her are in there by ourselves. My husband is outside of the gate in the parking lot, or the makeshift parking lot, in the truck. And Lainey starts saying, "What is that? What is that?" And she keeps saying it, and I'm trying to see what she's seeing, and at first I don't see it. Then all of a sudden I see it too. And we couldn't ever get it on camera because it wouldn't ever come into the light where we could see fully. But me and Lainey saw something. The best way for me to explain it is like back in the day when you were in gym class and they told you had to do the crab walk, and you had to like bend over backwards or put your hands down on the ground, your feet, and you're kind of walking like a crab. That's the way it looked like it was walking, but it was very long. It was almost gray, almost opaque, where you could almost see through it, but you couldn't. And the head was extremely large, but flipped upside down. The best way for me and Lainey to explain it with the pictures that we have looked at to research it is we believe we saw a rake.
But we don't know.
We don't know for sure that that's what it was, but it was something, and it was crawling.
Where you're talking about a rake, a ghoul, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, and it was crawling like just back, like it was pacing almost, but it would go. It never turned around. It would just back and forth, and it never would come out into the light. So we decided, okay, we're done. We're getting out of here. And so I turn the camera around, and we're doing our outro, and everybody was like, "Why did y'all turn away from what you thought you just saw?" And I was like, "Well, I did that because I wanted to be able to see in my viewfinder. If I would have had the light in my face, I would not have been able to see anything in front of me. At least this way I could see in the viewfinder." Well, at the same exact time, me and Lainey both scream and jump because we feel something grab our ankles. So I tell Laney, we're not even doing our outro. Let's just get out of here. We'll get in the truck and do it. She starts saying a prayer and she starts getting mixed up with the prayer itself because there's so much going on. But then all of a sudden, I start feeling the stabbing pain in the back of my head again. And I grab onto her and I hand her the camera. And just about that time, you can clearly see on our video a tall, slender thing walking away from us.
Jesus.
And we're turning around and we're walking out of the cemetery. And I did not see that at the time. I saw it while we were editing, and it freaked me out so bad. So you can see whatever is there, it comes up and it feels like it's stabbing me in the back of the head, and then it just walks away. And as it walks away, the pain starts going away. So that was like the creepiest thing we had ever, and we swore we'd never go back. We've been back about 10 times since then because we just want to know what we saw. And there's so much going on in those woods. We have seen what we think is Bigfoot there. We have heard noises that sounds like another animal shredding apart another animal, just the screams and the screeching. It's some of the craziest thing. And everyone that we take there has some kind of experience with some kind of cryptid or paranormal. It's another one of those places like Brown Springs. It's like a dream.
I mean, talking about, you make a good point. You bring up something that I question. And what it is this Bigfoot field research or anything. How do we know? I mean, I've seen a physical Bigfoot. I know what it is. There are a lot of people out there that investigate Bigfoot, whether they're first timers or 20-year veterans. How do we know, Laney, Amy, what it is exactly that we're looking at sometimes in the woods? You see something that you think is a Bigfoot. We all know about Bigfoot cloaking, disappearing, perhaps going through portals, whatever the case may be. I think there is a supernatural element to Bigfoot.
Right.
I do. I think there's also a flesh and blood element as well. I do. Now, let's say I'm in the field, I'm searching for Bigfoot. And all the possible evidence is shown. I see some tracks, I see this and that. And I'm convinced, hey, I'm on the trail. I got something coming up. How do we know, though, that it's maybe not a trickster? How do we know that it's some apparition, some entity? You mentioned Brown Springs. I got to see this place that Tex talks about all the time and you've been there and you can elaborate a little bit more, but how do we even know what we're looking at or what we think? I mean, is our perceptions clouded sometimes? And is this done on purpose by some of these maybe malevolent beings?
Mhm.
Or how do we differentiate? I know you're not Bigfoot field researchers, but how do we really know what we're looking at?
And we don't. And that's the strangest thing. When we started doing Bigfoot or cryptid type stuff with text and stuff like that, we went into it with the thing of we're going to be able to see this physical creature. We're going to be able to understand it right away. Little did we know we were going to have just as many questions with the cryptid side of it as we do with the paranormal side of it, because we've had many experiences with it, especially Brown Springs. But we always left with more questions than we had answers. It was something different every single time. So I do believe that they're a lot smarter than we give them credit for. But I also believe that there's something bigger than just it being a Bigfoot physical creature itself. I believe there's something a lot bigger there. Definitely feel like there is some kind of it's the same as paranormal. To me, it is paranormal because it's unknown. We have no clue. And we can't get any definite answers because everyone's evidence is so different. No one really has the same exact experience with them every single time.
You bring up, that point about, it's something bigger. And my thing is, and again, no one's experts here. I know you're investigators for many years. I get all that. And my wondering is, why would something in the field or in the forest, why would it try to trick you into thinking something else? Do they have a narrative that they want you to believe in, or do they have something that they want you to? Is there a further rabbit hole they want you to go down? Do they want to suck you into something? Do they want to make you Do they want to scare you, or is there a different agenda at play, in your opinion?
I think that they just don't want to get caught.
Or they're bored.
Yeah, they could be bored too. I mean, I would be bored just living up in the woods, not being able to be seen. But I think they definitely don't want to be caught, and they have been able to, over the years, figured out mind games and ways to trick us into uh, thinking we didn't see what we saw, or making our story so crazy that they're so unbelievable that no one believes them. Because if people believed them, then there'd be people out like hunting them with guns and everything else every single day. So I think they just have developed so well over the years. It's just like us. You know, if we're trying to get out of a scary situation, we come up with lies, we come up with excuses, you know, and everything else. I think their brain works the same exact way. It's like, how can I get out of this and still make them people look so stupid that nobody believes that they actually saw what they saw? So I think they're a lot smarter than we give them credit for.
Yeah, well, I believe that. I believe that Bigfoot, cryptids are smart, apparitions, ghosts, spirits are smart, and I think that they kind of like to control the narrative. I got a question for you guys. I know we got maybe 9, 10 minutes left in this. I want to touch on something though. You guys investigate a lot of beyond the grave, or perhaps communicating with lost souls or lost relatives.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Does that really happen? You know, I hear stories about people in the afterlife seeing the bright light, or in reverse situations, they see evil. Does that really occur, in
Now,
your
from
opinion?
what we've experienced and what we've been told through our spirit box, we do believe that there is a light that they see. Um, Now, what the light is actually, we don't know, but we do constantly try to help spirits get to the other side. We don't understand why they're stuck here. We don't understand why they would choose to be here as to wherever else they're going to be going. Um, we believe a lot of people are stuck here because they're afraid of the judgment. We don't I want to believe that I can still communicate with my family once they've already passed over the light and all that, because I do talk to a lot of my relatives, or what I believe is my relatives. We can't honestly say that who we're talking to is who we're talking to, because we're not face to face with them. And there are a lot of, I'm not going to say spirits, because I do not believe a demon was ever a spirit to begin with, but there are a lot of, just as in the cryptid side, there are a lot of tricksters in our field too. So we're not always going to know. So when we do any kind of thing that has to do with somebody's family member, we generally only ask for their name, their first name. That way, if anything comes out that these people understand, it's more validity for them, because they're the only ones that know this. I believe if we say, okay, his name was so and so, he was murdered by this person, this is how it happened, this is the day it happened, that's what we're going to hear, because the other spirits pick up on that. And so we try not to give it any information, so that way when we do get information that understands, or that we understand, or that makes sense to us, we can validate that better. But we still, to this day, have no idea who we're actually talking to. We could be talking to aliens for all we know. And they're just really good at mimicking what spirits are. We'll never have a definite answer, and that's why there's no experts or professionals in this field at all.
Well, I do believe that we are seeing aliens. I do believe that we're seeing disembodied souls, spirits, ghosts, however you want to see it. I believe we're seeing cryptids. You made a point about, some people are maybe their spirits trapped here on Earth because they don't want to go to the other side, because they don't want to be judged, that you've spoken about. But let me ask you this: what about the person that's laying on the gurney? We've all heard these stories.
Mm-hmm.
They know that they've passed on, and they're going to that bright light. You always hear about the bright light opening up, and they have this good feeling, and they're thinking they're going to heaven. But then all of a sudden, they wake up on the gurney wide awake. Now, if that was me and this was happening to me, I guess I would be at peace with that. Certainly, if I was going the other way, I'd want to get the hell out of there. But why do you think those some people, if they're on their way and they're going to a good place and they can feel it in their soul, Why do you think they turn back? You think that perhaps that whatever you believe in is giving you your message or what you need to do here on earth isn't complete?
I do. I definitely believe that. And I'm a firm believer in everyone has a death date. You have a time when your time's up. You know, you're just going to be gone. But I also believe that, you know, a lot of times accidents happen or things happen and you can't prevent that. So maybe if you do die during an accident or something like that, and it's not your time to go, you know, the doctors that somebody's going to be there to help them doctors bring you back. And sometimes I do believe that people, I don't think anyone's strong enough to fight it. If it's their time, I don't believe they're strong enough to fight it and say, no, I'm not going yet. Because I believe that when it's your time, it's your time. But we just did a show on near-death experiences not too long ago, and some of those stories were very interesting. And it's crazy that how close they were and what they saw just to be brought back. And if you go somewhere and you see family members you haven't seen in a long time, and it's a beautiful place and you know you're at peace and then you still come back, that's why I believe it's not your choice. I don't believe we have a choice in it.
I think you're right. But then again, I've heard that we can choose. And again, this is just listening to other people speak about that. So, in your opinion, we don't have a choice. Let's say that
Right.
I say, "Hey, I'm not ready to die. Send me back." That don't work that way.
Right. And see, the only reason why I say that is because we only have one half of the story. So we only have the stories of the people that actually come back. We don't have the stories of the people that go and don't come back. So that's why we question a lot whenever somebody passes. You know, we'll ask them, you know, are you glad to be where you're at, or are you upset that you're not here? You know, stuff like that, because we don't know. We have that one half of the story of the people that survived or were able to come back from their near-death experience. So we can only go by what we know from that. And so that's why it's more questions, more and more questions every single time. You never get a definitive answer. And so I don't think we'll ever understand it. And even by the way some of these spirits speak through the spirit boxes and everything else, they even have no clue what's going on. So honestly, there will never be an expert in any of these fields.
Well, I always say to everybody, I don't care what genre, I don't care if it's Bigfoot, I don't care if it's spirits, ghosts, whatever your flavor. The media, as soon as someone claims to me they're an expert, I dismiss them,
Yes,
and I'm like,
exactly.
okay, thank you, Mr. Expert. We got
Yes.
about 2 minutes left. Can you go ahead really briefly, just on a parting note? What's the latest thing that you came across that really scared you?
Okay, so right now we're living in a house in Oklahoma, and the railroad tracks are right behind our house. And there has been 3 derailments over the years behind our house. And so we believe right now that we do have a ghost train. We do believe that we have ghost riders that a lot of times when a train goes through, we'll have a lot of activity happening right after that. And sometimes they really unnerve us. They like to walk around our house. They like to rummage through stuff, make a bunch of noises. And so right now that's a little unsettling with us. We're hoping to be out of this house in a couple of months at least. But yeah, that's really something that we're working on and we're trying to figure out as we go. We're finding out more and more information about it. And it's been very crazy at our house here. And we hope to find out about it soon.
This has been such a great show. For everybody tuning in late, you got to watch the replay with What the Paranormal. Subscribe to them on YouTube. Amy and Laney were great guests. I enjoyed this. And before we cut you loose, where else can we find you guys?
Well, we're on most social medias. We do have a TikTok. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and we do have a Facebook group called What the Paranormal, where we share a lot of videos from a lot of our community that we have. Some amazing people there as well. And everything is under What the Paranormal.
Thank you so much. And don't forget, everybody, thanks to everybody who's listening today. Thank you to everybody in chat. Thanks to everybody who's going to listen to this later. And don't forget, text Jason, myself, Randy, Bobby Van Buren. We're throwing a party on Saturday in Texas, in Marshall, Texas. We're going to the Bigfoot conference, and we're having a meet and greet. Now, when I say party, we'll pay for chips. We'll pay for salsa. We're not paying for your drinks. That's at 6:30 at the jalapeno. Hell, I forgot the jalapeno
Tree.
tree. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys are from Texas or know about it.
Yes.
Check us out there. We'll share some stories. We'll get to know each other. I love each and every single one of you. Again, what the paranormal. Amy, Laney, love you guys. I can't wait to meet you one day. Maybe we'll hook up in Brown Springs. Hell, maybe I'll meet you in Texas. Thank you ever so much. I
Thank
loved
you
it.
so much.
Thanks to everybody that listened today. Until next time, BMR is out.